People of the Purple Butterfly here, otherwise known as People of 7 on Twitter and YouTube, People of elsewhere on the internet, and my blog is located at purplebutterfly-people.blogspot.com. And I was on Curly Nikki, and I was telling someone about bamboo chopsticks for hair. This was actually made for hair, so it has a sharp point. But most of my chopsticks that I do use in my hair, I got when I was ordering food. And chopsticks come in a set of two, wrapped in a, paper wrapper. So I just usually take one of those, and snatch it away before it can enter food. And I'm good from there. But the thing about those is they're not as pointed as a regular chopstick that's made for hair. And I have one that used to be a chopstick for food that I've broken over the period of time. So I'm going to show you how I get that back to a point that looks like this. Because as you could tell, when I break something, I really break it. But anyway, I'm going to make this point, which is, as you could tell, raw and scraggly and won't, that will cause damage to my hair instead of protecting my hair, look like this one. So what you're going to need, if you're going to try this, get yourself a nail brush. This is my spare nail brush. I have one I use for my nails, and I have this I use for utilities and stuff around the house, because it's not as firm as the one I use for my nails. Plus, it's a different color, so that way I can never get them confused. And, especially when you're working with wood, you don't want little particles of whatever getting onto your nail bed. You want an emery board. I use this one exclusively for when I'm using craft items. The one for my actual fingernails, I keep in my purse. You could tell the difference just by looking. See? This one has, shall we say, debris all over it, but it doesn't matter. This is a Beauty Shaper 100-180 grit. It has a definite gritty side and a definite buffing side. Then you want a blocking board. This is a polar block. It has 4 different surfaces of varying degrees of finer grit, so this is good for buffing. And then me, I'm paranoid about particles or anything in my eye. I'm wearing safety glasses. You don't have to, but I suggest if you're going to do this, get yourself some safety glasses. Okay, next I'm going to take some napkins or paper towels to protect my working surface, as it were. Basically, my lap, because I do not want to go back to work with little particles of wood all over my clothing. Speaking of which, let's take this off now, don't we? Anyway, to get started, we're going to take the higher grit of the, basically, I'm going to match up where see how that's at an angle? I'm going to match the angle and just start to smooth that. So that way there's no splinters or scraggles or whatever. Then I'm going to turn it the opposite direction and just kind of whittle it to a point. And I'm going to turn it like this while I'm doing it, and eventually that will leave me with a point. And doesn't even have to be a sharp point or a tapered point, just trying to get it to a point. Okay, so now it looks like this. See that? And as you can tell, the wood finish is on there. And I'm going to keep doing that for a couple more rounds. And then when it's to where I want it, oh, also you need some olive oil. I almost forgot to mention that. But it's a given that if you're working with wood, always have some oil around. And since everybody knows that, then when you're telling somebody how to do something with wood, people tend to forget to mention that. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to the finer side And basically I'm doing the same thing, only this is buffing it out a little bit more, so that way there's no sharp splintered surprises coming at you when you stick this in your hair. Okay, and because of the type of wood this is, I don't have to worry about it looking like, hey, you scraped the paint off, because this is a dark wood and it's dark all the way through. Okay, just like with the bamboo will be light all the way through, and the only time it gets darker is if you add a paint to it, or a stain or something like that. Okay, so now I'm just going to buff that out just a little teeny bit. Believe it or not, you can also sharpen a pencil this way. Ask me how I know. Now we're going to take the block, and basically I'm going to just do the same thing, turning it as I go. So there's a light bit of brown, I don't know if you see that, on this side of the block. Then that means I'm going to turn it to the next side. And since one is a heavy grit, then one is a finer grit, then a finer grit, and then almost a no grit at all type situation. This is just buffing it, literally, to a smooth finish. And then I'm going to finish up by holding it straight up and down, so that way I get the point. You do not want to forget the point that you created. Wouldn't do no good to have smooth sides and then a scratchy point that's sticking in your head, because that could be uncomfortable. Then I'm just going to take the paper towel I have here for my work surface and wipe it off, and that's starting to shape up nicely, as you can see. Then, just because I don't like wood particles, I'm going to slap all those little pieces of wood dust onto the paper towel, wrap that up, and all the mess you made goes away. Okay, now, the brush. Just go ahead and give that a, that way if there's any pieces of wood, it's gone. And essentially this is done. The only thing left to do now, olive oil. Just dip it right on in there. And I'm going to show you why in a second. See that? Now I'm going to let it slide down the length of that. But in the meantime, literally I'm coating it with the oil. That protects the wood. That will protect my hair. And that will also take the finish back to where it already was. See, that's the wood, and that's where I sanded. It looks congruent. I don't have to put paint on it. I don't have to put a clear coat on it. It went in my hair, didn't scratch anything. See that? In fact, that's nice and smooth. And if you have an itch, boom, you're done. So,